Hey everybody, and welcome back to Ender Lilies Quietus of the Nights. And we're going to fight someone not the easiest. A bit tougher than the other things around here. Okay, Dark Witch Aline is the boss of the Witch's Coven. And she's got a few tricks. First off, she does some fairly substantial damage. And she gets an ever-increasing variety of attacks as the battle goes on, like, quite a bit more. She's basically what the Witch of the Lake from Salt and Sanctuary would be like if she wasn't total bullshit. She has a fairly weak stagger gauge as far as bosses go, but she spends most of the time flying, so you need to think about what spirits you want to use if you want to knock her down. Ugh, took way too much damage. In her second phase, she summons that fire tornado thing and starts shooting 2 fireballs with each homing fireball attack. And you can't really dodge through her fire tornado. If you try that, well, you saw me try it. You saw what happened. The first 2 phases, however, aren't really that much to worry about if you're keeping your eye on the prize. So it's just a matter of not losing too much life until you get to this phase. Guess what? You're playing a shmup now. Now, after every multi-shot or every homing fireball attack, she's going to do a teleporting melee attack that always goes to where you are. You can't ever be out of its range. She's just going to teleport and smack you if you're not ready. The reason that this room was already logged before I came down here is that I did some practice recording to test my new codec, and she actually killed me. But hey, we got her this time. Let's see what's on her mind. Okay, so the White Priestess was apparently the Dark Witch's only actual friend. So we got 2 things. First is a very useful ranged attack, and now we can swim underwater. That is, swim, fight, and dodge underwater. So, nothing else is in here. time for us to get moving. So, one of the things about the original version of swimming, that is in the original early access build that was released in January, you couldn't originally dodge underwater. That was one of the first things that got fixed. And I am so glad it was. Because otherwise, certain things we're going to need to do later would be absolutely impossible. So we're going to use our newfound freedom to explore a few places that we couldn't go through earlier. And I don't know why I took the long way. Oh well, too late for that now. Thankfully, we're not that far away from the next respite. So now we can fully explore down this way. Just get rid of some of these. This is actually a fairly substantial room. And there's something very, very worth getting down here. So one of the things about swimming is that not every spirit can be used underwater. And you do know which ones can be used because they have the tag aquatic in the spirit selection screen in when you're resting. So you know what's going to allow you to fight down here. However, I don't really think you can dodge as far underwater as you can when you're on the surface, so you're still more vulnerable down here than you are up there. Well, we might as well clear these guys out. We're going to be heading this way sometime soon anyway. Ah, the joys of homing projectiles in a platformer. Okay, so that door is actually on a timed switch. So we're going to do everything else possible first. Take out all the enemies, find any other things that might be lying around. So the witch's special skill it'll remain useful to us for basically the entire game. It's a somewhat homing, fairly strong projectile attack that we can use quite a number of times. It's not going to be useful for every boss, because there are definitely bosses that like to be up close and personal. And that attack does root us in place for its duration, and we can't cancel out of attack animations in this game. The ability or inability to cancel animations is really just something that can define the entire combat system and even just general tone of a game. Oh. I wonder. So we're just going to drop down here and break this. That'll give us access to another room we saw earlier. Let's see, you go right back here. And... oh. Another one of these. I'm not gonna turn down more health restore per heal, but we've already encountered two other girls that look exactly like us. And that's a bit too much for coincidence. Oh well, not much we can do about it now. So we passed through the time gate, and now we're in this new area here. This is actually the transition to another major area of the game. And the descent on the way down is a little bit tricky because of the way they've set up the monsters down here. They've set up these sorceresses with the homing projectiles and the close-up flame tornado, so it can be a bit awkward dealing with each and every one of these things, given that you don't have a huge amount of room to maneuver or risk dropping down. I've never actually been killed on the way down here, but sometimes it's left me with uncomfortably low health. Yeah, the trick I'm doing here is that her fireballs launch low for the first attack and high for the second. So you can just stagger your attacks so you always throw the low fireball and guaranteed to hit things that are a bit too low for the high one. That reminds me, one of the oddities of adopting a game this early is that now sometimes I'm the guy who gives boss advice on forums. Never thought I'd see the day. Well, we're out of restores, and that's a bit of a problem. And I didn't even really need to stop and fight this one, because this is at the bottom of the area. Another timed switch. Oh, that's big. Well, let's see if we can't get through that door. I guess we're not fast enough to do that yet. Well, that's okay. We don't actually need to go that way for a long time. So now we're just going to explore a couple of the other watery areas that we weren't able to the last time through. Yeah, I was just trying to remember what place I could actually explore with my newfound aquatic abilities. Yeah, it looks like it's just down here somewhere. I did not think I would have made that dodge, by the way. No, it wasn't down here either. That's the thing that makes games like this a bit tricky, because every new ability just opens up new stuff in the rest of the places you've been. Like, the 7th ability we're going to get is going to open up new paths in the cliffside hamlet. It does that sort of thing. By the way, while we're underwater, and I know I use the phrase "by the way" a lot, let's just appreciate the sound design of this game for a moment, because whenever you're underwater, not only do your sounds become muffled, but also the music of the area. This game just does a lot of really effective stuff with its presentation. I mean, the gameplay does have to deliver. Of course, that's really the centerpiece of the Metroidvania thing as a genre. Moving has to feel good, exploring has to feel good, fighting has to feel good, everything has to work together really well in order for something like this to go places. I'm trying to think if there are any, like, actually really bad Metroidvanias out there. I can think of some that aren't great, like Circle of the Moon and Harmony of Dissonance. But my big problem with Circle of the Moon was how the most essential building blocks of the game's system, you might say, are just completely randomized. Not just the magic cards, but even, like, really basic things like area-appropriate armor. There are some watery areas in the cliffside hamlet that we haven't tackled yet. And this is me deciding where I was actually going to go. And the next place I wanted to poke at was actually just equidistant from a couple of save points, so there was no point in messing around with that. Another of the things that did happen in early access is that whenever you beat a boss, the entire global level went up. Like, monsters everywhere would get tougher. That, thankfully, is absent from this release of the game. The full release. Because, considering how strong monsters get near the end of the game, I wouldn't want that applied everywhere. This game definitely went through some fairly important quality changes between early access and now. Okay, just take care of a couple of these guys. Aha, now we can grab what's down here. The Giant's Ring. Note, Lily does not wear this as a ring. She wears it as an arm bracelet. Yeah, it's little notes like that which remind me of Sting games like Nights in the Nightmare and Riviera and that sort of thing. I guess the unfortunate thing with Sting is that their games were not talked about that much. Well, their fans talked about them a lot, but I don't think Sting was really appreciated enough for the kind of attitude they brought to game design, which was, let's do this and see what happens. But I still also think that Riviera was probably one of the finest JRPGs for the Game Boy Advance. And even 16-bit in general. And we found ourselves a new area. Now, this wasn't originally in early access. This relic gives us a parry, and it doesn't actually cost any relic slots. I can't be bothered to learn real parry timing myself, so we're not going to use it. But if you're really good at it, you can pull off some real Daigo moments with this game's parry system. So we are going to reconfigure our spirits a bit and upgrade them, because the first few areas we've been through are relatively painless. But things are about to get a little bit, different from here on out. Okay, starting with the Catacombs, I guess some people would say the real Ender Lilies begins here. The areas get quite substantially more complicated, the enemies become more aggressive and vicious, the mid-bosses are stronger. There's just all kinds of new stuff we have to deal with. The fundamentals are still the same, but the opposition has gone up a notch. Here there are these very aggressive spiders, there's archers everywhere, and there's also poison water around here. So upgrading your spirits does more than just increase damage. Like, we upgraded the Western Merchant to level 3 and now it shoots 3 shots instead of just the 1. And maxing out a spirit to provide some very powerful effects. Really, it's upgrades and spirit selection that mean more to your damage potential than levels do. Not to say levels are completely useless, but I'm just saying that's the general balance of things. So now it's time to scour the upper area, just to be sure we didn't miss anything we are actually capable of getting at this point. By the way, those fireflies over there, they come from monster generators, so be all gauntlet about it and take care of those at some point. And here's a little secret room up here. Nothing too special, but it's something. Yeah, you can't really get stagnant or furious blight from monsters. You can only get it in very small amounts from pots and in larger amounts from certain drop areas. So chances are you won't really be able to max out all of your spirits on any given run you do of this game. And here's the first mid-boss. Now, this thing can actually shoot web shots that can trap you, like so. They don't do a huge amount of damage, and you can kind of wiggle out of them without too much problem, but it's still something to look out for. And we are out of heals. So what's your story? After a lifetime spent guarding the catacombs, the Elder Crypt Keeper had earned eternal rest. His dying... oh, whoops, I did it too fast. Well, you can pause the video and read it for yourself. Okay, so let's see if we can't get above the... no. And, So, that's the Catacombs experience, everybody. I think we're just gonna save our game here and close out for this episode. So, I guess I'll be seeing y'all next time, when we go deeper into the Catacombs and see what else is down here besides death. Goodbye!